Commander Elena Reyes stood motionless on the observation deck of the ESS Pathfinder, Earth's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Through the massive viewport, the uninhabited planet Gliese 581 grams rotated slowly, its rusty surface marked with azure oceans that glimmered under the light of its distant red dwarf star. This world, located just over 20 light-years from Earth, had been marked as a potential candidate for terraforming. But that wasn't why they were here. "Commander, we've isolated the signal," announced Lieutenant Marcus Chen, his voice crackling through the ship's comm system. "It's definitely artificial, originating from the northern continent. The pattern repeats every 42.8 seconds with perfect precision." Elena's heartbeat quickened. Humanity had spent centuries searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. They had found microbial life on Mars and Europa, primitive aquatic creatures beneath the ice sheets of Enceladus, but never another intelligent species. Until now. "Prepare the landing team," she ordered, turning away from the viewport. "We launch in 30 minutes. The descent to Gliese 581 grams was turbulent but manageable. The 6-person team, led by Elena herself, landed their shuttle 3 kilometers from the signal source, a precautionary distance. The planet's atmosphere was thinner than Earth's but breathable, with higher oxygen levels and trace elements not found in their home world's air. As they stepped out onto the alien soil, Elena felt the slight increase in gravity pull at her limbs. The landscape around them was dominated by low, wind-eroded mountains and valleys carved by ancient rivers that had long since run dry. Vegetation was sparse, mostly tough, lichen-like growths that clung to rocks and soil in shades of burgundy and indigo. "Life finds a way," murmured Dr. Sophia Okoro, the team's xenobiologist, kneeling to examine the alien flora. "These organisms have adapted to harsh radiation from the star. Their cellular structure, it's unlike anything we've seen before." "We'll collect samples on the way back," Elena said. "Right now, our priority is that signal." They traversed the rugged terrain for nearly 2 hours before cresting a ridge that overlooked a broad valley. What they saw below made them stop in their tracks. A vast complex of structures stretched across the valley floor, clearly artificial and clearly ancient. The buildings were constructed of a material that resembled polished obsidian, arranged in concentric circles around a central dome that rose nearly 100 meters high. Despite signs of weathering, the structures appeared remarkably intact. "Estimate on age?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. James Volkov, their archaeologist, scanned the site with his equipment. "Based on erosion patterns and soil accumulation, at least 15,000 years old, possibly much older. And yet that signal is still broadcasting," said Security Chief Nakamura, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. "Someone, or something, is still active down there." The team descended carefully into the valley, approaching the alien complex with caution. As they drew closer, they could see intricate patterns etched into the obsidian-like material, flowing lines intertwined with precise geometric shapes that seemed to shift slightly when viewed from different angles. "These aren't just decorative," Volkov said, examining the patterns. "They look like circuit diagrams, but on a quantum level. This entire structure might be a massive computational system." The signal led them to an entrance on the eastern side of the central dome. The doorway stood open, as if inviting them inside. Elena hesitated only briefly before making her decision. "Chen, Nakamura, you're with me. Okoro, Volkov, and Rodriguez, maintain position here and keep communications open. If we don't report back in 30 minutes, return to the shuttle and contact Pathfinder." The interior of the dome was illuminated by a soft ambient light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The air was perfectly still and slightly warmer than outside. Their footsteps echoed as they moved through curved corridors that spiraled gradually downward. "The signal's getting stronger," Chen reported, checking his handheld scanner. "It's coming from below us. After descending for what seemed like hundreds of meters, they emerged into a vast chamber that took Elena's breath away. The circular room was at least 200 meters in diameter, its domed ceiling covered in what looked like a map of the galaxy. But what dominated the space were thousands of transparent chambers arranged in concentric circles, each containing a single humanoid figure. "My God," whispered Chen. "It's some kind of cryogenic facility." Elena approached the nearest chamber. Inside was a being approximately 2 meters tall, with an elongated, slender body. Its skin was a pale lavender hue, with faint, swirling patterns visible beneath the surface. The head was proportionally larger than a human's, with no visible hair and facial features that included large, almond-shaped eyes, a small nose-like protrusion, and a narrow mouth. "They look almost peaceful," Elena said, studying the alien's face. Its expression seemed serene, as if in deep sleep rather than suspended animation. At the center of the chamber stood a console made of the same obsidian-like material as the rest of the structure. As they approached, it illuminated, projecting holographic symbols into the air above it. "This is the source of the signal," Chen confirmed, scanning the console. "It appears to be some kind of automated system, possibly designed to activate when it detects the presence of advanced technology nearby." Elena reached out tentatively toward the console. As her hand neared its surface, the holographic display changed, coalescing into a three-dimensional image of one of the aliens. The figure began to speak, producing sounds that were melodic but incomprehensible. "It's trying to communicate," Elena said. "Chen, see if the universal translator can make anything of this." Lieutenant Chen worked quickly, feeding the alien language into their translation system. After several minutes, fragmented words began to come through. "Last hope, civilization, catastrophe, sleepers, awaken, help." The alien's message repeated, and with each iteration, the translation became clearer as the AI system learned the language patterns. Finally, they could understand most of what was being said. "I am Cyril, last guardian of the Lissari. Our civilization faces extinction. A stellar anomaly will soon render our world uninhabitable. We have placed our last 10,000 citizens in suspended animation beneath this facility. This message activates only upon detection of another spacefaring species. If you are hearing this, you are our last hope. The sleepers can be awakened, but we lack the resources to relocate them. We offer our knowledge and technology in exchange for salvation. Will you help us?" The message ended, leaving Elena and her team in stunned silence. They had come seeking knowledge about an alien signal and had instead found themselves faced with the monumental responsibility of saving an entire civilization. "We need to report this to Earth immediately," Elena said finally. "This is far beyond our mission parameters." Back aboard the Pathfinder, the entire crew gathered in the conference room as Elena briefed them on their discovery. The holographic recording of Cyril's message played for all to see. The Lissari entered suspended animation approximately 12,000 years ago, according to our best estimates, Dr. Volkov explained. Their star was becoming increasingly unstable, bombarding their planet with deadly radiation. Rather than face extinction, they preserved their population in the hope that another species might eventually find them. "And their technology?" asked Captain Rivera, the commanding officer of the Pathfinder. "Far beyond our own," Chen replied. "Their suspension chambers have maintained perfect stasis for millennia. The power source appears to be drawing energy directly from quantum fluctuations in space-time, essentially limitless and self-sustaining." "What about revival?" Rivera pressed. "Can these sleepers actually be awakened after all this time?" Dr. Okoro stepped forward. "Based on our preliminary scans, yes. Their biology is carbon-based, like ours, though with significant differences. Their suspension system includes detailed medical protocols for revival. With study, we could likely implement them." Captain Rivera sat back in his chair, the weight of the situation evident in his expression. "We're talking about potentially saving an entire species from extinction. But we're also talking about introducing an alien civilization to our solar system. The political, ethical, and security implications are unprecedented. We can't just leave them here, Alina argued. They've survived for 12,000 years waiting for someone like us. If we walk away, everything they preserved, their knowledge, their art, their history, all of it will be lost forever. I agree, said Okoro. As a xenobiologist, I can tell you that the scientific value alone is incalculable. But more importantly, as sentient beings, don't we have a moral obligation to help if we can? Security Chief Nakamura raised her hand. Playing devil's advocate here, we know nothing about these Lissari beyond a recorded message. What if they're not what they appear to be? What if reviving them poses a threat to humanity? A heated debate erupted among the crew. Some argued for caution, suggesting they should study the facility for months or even years before attempting to revive any of the aliens. Others insisted that immediate action was necessary. What if the suspension systems were finally beginning to fail after millennia of operation? Enough, Captain Rivera said finally. This decision is too important for a single crew to make. We'll establish a secure camp near the facility and continue our research while we await instructions from Earth. Lieutenant Chen, prepare a comprehensive data package including everything we've learned about the Lissari and their technology. Commander Reyes, you'll deliver the report personally when we send the shuttle back to the relay station. Elena nodded, though she felt a surge of frustration at the delay. Every instinct told her they needed to act quickly, but she understood the captain's position. Humanity had never faced a situation like this before. As the meeting adjourned, Alina returned to the observation deck, gazing down at the planet, where an ancient civilization lay dormant, waiting for salvation. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders. 3 days later, after compiling all their research, Alina prepared to depart for the communication relay station that would transmit their findings back to Earth. Before leaving, she insisted on making one final visit to the Lissari facility. Standing once more before the central console, she studied the alien faces in their suspension chambers. "We'll be back," she promised quietly. "One way or another, we'll find a way to help you." As if in response, the holographic image of Cyril appeared again, repeating its message of hope and desperation. But this time, as Elena turned to leave, the message changed. "You have returned," Cyril's translation said. "Your presence has been noted and assessed. Initiating awakening protocol for primary contact team." Before Elena could react, one of the suspension chambers near the console began to glow with increasing intensity. The transparent material became translucent, then opaque, obscuring the alien within. "Chen, what's happening?" Elena demanded over her comm. "The system is automatically reviving one of them," he replied, his voice tense with excitement and apprehension. I think we're about to meet a Lissari." The chamber's outer shell retracted, releasing a cloud of luminescent vapor. As it cleared, Alina found herself face to face with a living, breathing representative of a civilization that had slumbered through 12 millennia of cosmic time. The Lissari's eyes opened, 3 of them, arranged in a triangular pattern, each iris a swirling gold against deep violet. They focused on Elena with unmistakable intelligence and awareness. Humanity's first true contact with an alien civilization had begun. 6 months had passed since the ESS Pathfinder discovered the dormant Lissari civilization on Gliese 581 grams. What began as a routine exploration mission had transformed into the most significant event in human history. Earth's governments, after weeks of heated debate, had authorized Operation Renaissance, the ambitious effort to revive and relocate the sleeping aliens. Admiral Kazuo Ashikawa stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, the flagship of humanity's newly formed humanitarian fleet. 5 massive colony vessels and 3 science ships surrounded the horizon, all positioned in orbit around Gliese 581 grams. Each colony ship could transport up to 3,000 Lissari in modified stasis chambers, along with samples of their world's biology and cultural artifacts. Status report. Ishikawa commanded, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays surrounding his command station. Final preparations are complete, Admiral, reported his executive officer. Commander Rice, promoted after her pivotal role in the first contact. The advance team reports that revival protocols for the first group of 100 Lissari have been initiated. Helena had fought hard for her current assignment, liaison officer between humanity and the awakened Lissari. Over the past months, she had worked closely with Cyril, the first Lissari to be revived, and the 11 others who formed the alien civilization's leadership council. On the surface below, Alina stood in the central chamber of the Lissari facility, watching as the medical team, a mixture of human doctors and Lissari healers, monitored the revival process. The suspension pods glowed with soft blue light as their ancient systems carefully reversed the stasis process. Cyril stood beside her, their slender form draped in flowing garments of iridescent material that shifted colors with each movement. The Lissari had adapted remarkably quickly to the shock of awakening millennia after their civilization's twilight. Their language had been fully integrated into human translation systems, allowing for increasingly nuanced communication. "Your people have accomplished what we thought impossible," Cyril said, their melodic voice filled with subdued wonder. "In the darkest moment of our history, we cast our fate to the cosmic winds, hoping against hope that someone would find us. We couldn't have done otherwise," Elena replied. "When we found you, you became our responsibility." Cyril's 3 eyes, now familiar to Elena despite their alien configuration, regarded her with what she had learned to recognize as affection. "Responsibility implies obligation. Yet you've shown us something beyond duty. You've shown us compassion." The revival of the first 100 Lissari proceeded without complications. These individuals had been specifically selected for their expertise in fields crucial to the relocation effort: engineers, scientists, medical specialists, and cultural historians. Each awakened alien experienced the same shock and wonder as Cyril upon learning that they had been found by another intelligent species willing to save them. Dr. Miguel Santos, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, approached Elena with a tablet displaying bio-readings. "The integration of Lissari physiology with our medical systems is proceeding better than expected," he reported. "Their ability to adapt to changing environmental conditions is remarkable, almost as if their species evolved specifically to survive catastrophic planetary changes." "That's precisely what happened," Cyril interjected, overhearing the conversation. "Our sun began its destabilization over 50,000 of your years ago. Our ancestors survived wave after wave of radiation surges, adapting with each generation. Those who could not adapt perished." Elena felt a chill at the matter-of-fact way Cyril described their species' brutal evolutionary history. The Lissari had faced extinction not once but repeatedly, their bodies and technology evolving in response to their dying star's death throes. "The human fleet is impressive," commented Talon, another awakened Lissari who served as their chief engineer. "But I studied your propulsion systems. The journey to your home system will take nearly 2 Earth years at your maximum sustainable velocity." "That's correct," Elena acknowledged. "We've never attempted a relocation of this scale across such distances." Talon's expression shifted in the subtle way that Elena had learned indicated excitement. "Perhaps we can help with that. Our suspension technology was not our only achievement. Before the final evacuation, our scientists developed theoretical models for folding spacetime." Elena's eyes widened. "You're talking about faster-than-light travel." "The theories were sound," Talon explained, "but we lacked the energy resources to implement them. Your fusion technology, combined with our theoretical models, they left the implication hanging." Within weeks, joint human Lissari engineering teams were working around the clock in a makeshift research facility. The combination of human practical ingenuity and Lissari theoretical brilliance produced results that shocked both species. What might have taken decades of separate research was accomplished in months. Admiral Ishikawa received the proposal with careful skepticism. "You're telling me these aliens have helped us develop functional FTL drive systems in less than 4 months?" "Not exactly functional yet," Alina clarified, standing beside Talon in the Admiral's quarters. "But the simulations are conclusive. With modifications to our existing fusion reactors and the application of Lisari quantum field manipulators, we can create a localized space-time distortion that would reduce our travel time from years to weeks." "The risks," Ishikawa began, "are significant," Talon acknowledged. "But we've run over 10,000 simulations. The probability of catastrophic failure is less than 0.03%. Ishikawa studied the alien engineer, still not entirely comfortable with their presence despite months of cooperation. "Why share this technology with us? This could fundamentally alter the balance of power in our solar system." Talon's 3 eyes blinked in their distinctive sequence. "Admiral, my people slept for 12,000 years. In that time, your species evolved from primitive tribal societies to crossing the stars. You found us when no one else did. You chose to help us when you could have simply taken our technology and left us sleeping. Trust must begin somewhere." After 2 more weeks of testing, the decision was made. The UES Horizon would be retrofitted with the experimental drive system and attempt a test jump to the nearby Ta-CD system. A journey that would normally take months but should, if the theory proved correct, require only hours. The day of the test arrived with tension palpable throughout the fleet. Alina stood on the bridge beside Admiral Ishikawa as final preparations were completed. Cyril and Talon occupied newly installed observer stations, monitoring the drive systems with their unique perspective. "All systems nominal," reported the chief engineer. "Quantum field stabilizers active. Fusion reactors at 95% output." Ishikawa took a deep breath. "Commence jump sequence." The view screen displayed the stars ahead as points of brilliant light against the void. Gradually, those points began to stretch, elongating into lines as space itself seemed to bend around the ship. A low vibration built through the deck plates, not unpleasant but unmistakably alien. "Field integrity holding," called out the monitoring officer. "Spatial distortion reaching critical threshold in 3, 2, 1. The universe outside seemed to fold inward, stars swirling into a vortex of light before the view screen went completely dark. For 17 seconds, the bridge crew held their breath in the eerie stillness. Then, with a gentle shudder, the view screen cleared, revealing an entirely different starfield. "Position confirmed," announced the navigation officer, her voice shaking with barely contained excitement. "We are in the Ta-CD system. Jump completed successfully." A cheer erupted across the bridge. Humans embraced one another in celebration of what would undoubtedly be remembered as one of humanity's greatest technological leaps. Alina turned to find Cyril watching the scene with their head tilted in the gesture she now recognized as amazement. "Your people celebrate with such physicality," Cyril observed. Alina laughed. "We're an emotional species. This is a historic moment." "Indeed," agreed Talon, studying the readouts from the drive system. "The jump was 37% more efficient than our models predicted. Your fusion technology has exceptional stability characteristics. The success of the FTL test accelerated Operation Renaissance dramatically. Within 2 months, all ships in the humanitarian fleet have been retrofitted with the new drive systems. The journey that would have taken years could now be completed in just over 3 weeks." As preparations for departure entered their final phase, Alina worked with Cyril on the relocation protocols. The majority of Lisari would remain in suspension during transit, with only about 500 awakened to assist with the journey and prepare for arrival. "We've identified a habitable moon in the Jupiter system," Alina explained, showing Cyril the holographic representation of Europa. "We've had a research station there for decades, studying the indigenous aquatic life forms. The surface has been partially terraformed with environmental domes that can be modified to match Lisari physiological needs." Cyril studied the image thoughtfully. It is smaller than our homeworld, but the subsurface ocean is intriguing. Our people have always had an affinity for water. The initial settlement will be limited, Elena cautioned. Eventually, as more Lissari are awakened and Earth becomes comfortable with your presence, we hope to establish additional settlements on Mars and possibly Venus once terraforming their advances further. Their planning was interrupted by an urgent communication from Admiral Ishikawa. Commander Reyes, we're detecting multiple unidentified vessels entering the system. They're not responding to hails. Elena's blood ran cold. Earth had rivals in space, corporate interests and breakaway colonies that operated in the outer reaches of explored space, beyond effective government control. Some had opposed Operation Renaissance from the beginning, viewing the Lissari as potential competitors for limited resources. How many vessels? She asked. 7, frigate class or larger. They're on an intercept course. The peaceful mission suddenly faced its first serious threat. Elena rushed to the command center established near the Lissari facility, Cyril following close behind. The holographic display showed the approaching vessels. Angular, utilitarian ships that bore the unmistakable silhouette of Frontier Coalition vessels. The Coalition was a loose alliance of corporate mining interests and independent colonies that had always chafed under Earth governance. They're broadcasting now, reported the communications officer. The message appeared on screen. Attention UES vessels. This is Commander Vega of the Frontier Coalition. Your unsanctioned alien contact poses an existential threat to humanity. Stand down and prepare to surrender all alien technology. The creatures will remain in stasis for proper study. You have 30 minutes to comply. Admiral Ishikawa's expression darkened. Bring the fleet to combat readiness. Position our vessels between the Coalition ships and the planet. Admiral, Cyril spoke up. Violence between humans over our fate would be tragic. Perhaps negotiation. With respect, Ishikawa interrupted. The Coalition isn't interested in negotiation. They want your technology without the inconvenience of your people. The standoff lasted for tense hours. The Coalition vessels maintained their approach, but slowed as they encountered the defensive formation of Earth ships. Communications between the opposing fleets remained hostile, but did not escalate further. Then, unexpectedly, the Lissari offered a solution. Our suspension chambers, Talon explained in an emergency council meeting, can be modified to serve as escape vessels. Each can maintain life support for up to 10 of our people for several months. We have the technology to cloak them from standard sensors. You're suggesting we evacuate the Lissari in their own stasis pods? Elena asked, incredulous. Only if necessary, Cyril clarified. We would rather avoid conflict between humans over our existence. If the Coalition forces overcome your fleet, we could scatter the pods throughout this system and beyond. They would be nearly impossible to track. Admiral Ishikawa considered the proposal. A contingency plan, then. We'll continue diplomatic efforts, but prepare for the worst. The Coalition's patience expired after 24 hours. Their lead vessels launched what appeared to be a warning shot, a missile that detonated short of the Earth fleet's perimeter. That was no warning, observed the Horizon's tactical officer. Sensors detect nanoscopic probes dispersing from the blast. They're scanning us, looking for weaknesses. Before Ishikawa could respond, Cyril approached him directly. Admiral, there is another option, one we had hoped not to use. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. When our civilization faced extinction, we developed defensive technologies as well. Non-lethal systems designed to protect our evacuation ships. We could implement them on your vessels within hours. 6 hours later, as the Coalition fleet moved into attack formation, the Earth vessels activated their newly integrated defense systems. Quantum field generators, similar to those used in the FTL drive, but calibrated differently, created localized distortions around each Coalition ship. Their engines sputtered and died as the fabric of space itself refused to transmit energy within the affected zones. All enemy vessels disabled, reported the tactical officer. "They're drifting." "Open a channel," Ishikawa ordered. When Commander Vega's face appeared on screen, the Admiral spoke with measured authority. "Your ships have been disabled by technology you cannot counter. You will be towed to the edge of this system and left with sufficient life support to reach your nearest base. If you return, the consequences will be more severe." The crisis averted, Operation Renaissance resumed. The modified FTL drives performed flawlessly during the journey to the solar system. 3 weeks later, the fleet arrived at Jupiter, their precious cargo of 10,000 sleeping Lissari intact. The first permanent settlement on Europa was established within 2 months. Habitat domes, specially designed to accommodate Lissari physiology, rose from the icy surface, while research teams from both species explored the vast subsurface ocean. 1 year after first contact, Elena stood with Cyril on the observation deck of the newly constructed Lissari Cultural Center. Through the transparent dome above, Jupiter filled half the sky, its swirling storms and bands creating a constantly changing canvas. "Your people have adapted remarkably well," Elena observed. Nearly 2,000 Lissari had now been awakened, with more joining the colony each month. "Adaptation is our strength," Cyril replied. "It is what saved us when our star betrayed us, and what will help us thrive in this new home you've given us. And humanity has adapted as well," Elena said. "The technologies we've developed together have transformed our capabilities. FTL travel alone has opened the stars to us in ways we never imagined possible." Cyril turned to her, all 3 eyes focused intently on her face. "The universe is vast and largely unknown, Elena. Perhaps that is why intelligence evolves, not merely to survive, but to discover and connect. Your people found us against astronomical odds. I believe that was not mere chance, but destiny." Below them, in the main plaza of the settlement, humans and Lissari moved among each other with growing comfort and familiarity. Scientists from both species collaborated in research facilities, while engineers worked together to expand the colony. Children, human ones brought by families stationed on Europa, played games with young Lissari, inventing new rules that accommodated their different abilities. "What happens next?" Elena asked. "Once all your people are awakened and settled." Cyril gazed out at Jupiter's magnificent presence. "We rebuild, we learn, we grow. And perhaps together, we search for others. In a universe so vast, it seems unlikely we are the only 2 intelligent species to have evolved." Elena nodded, contemplating the profound journey that had brought humanity to this moment. From a species confined to a single planet to one that had saved an entire alien civilization, and in doing so, transformed itself. "The stars are no longer beyond our reach," she said softly. "Together, there's nothing we can't achieve." As if in response to her words, Jupiter's great red spot came into view, its swirling storm reminiscent of the space-time distortions that had made their journey possible. A fitting symbol, Elena thought, for the turbulent but magnificent future that awaited their united species. In the vast silence of space, 2 civilizations that had evolved on worlds 20 light-years apart had defied cosmic odds to find each other. One had merely been extinguished by its dying star. The other had reached out across the void to offer salvation. Together, they now turned their gaze to the infinite darkness between the stars, not with fear, but with hope and wonder at what they might discover next. The guardians of 2 worlds had become the explorers of countless others. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't conquering the stars, but ensuring that another voice in the cosmic conversation would not be silenced. And in that act of preservation, they had discovered something profound about themselves. Their capacity for compassion extended beyond the boundaries of their own species, beyond the limits of their own world. It was, perhaps, the most human thing they had ever done.